Hey guys, today I'm going to do a soft-spoken story time with hair play. Somebody had asked me to do that a while back, and it's been a little bit since I have done like a playing with my hair video, so I decided to do that here. And I'm also going to do the Big League Chew Gum again. I did this in a video several weeks ago, finally found some, and so I'm gonna chew this again here for the story time hair play video. So good, smells so good. I was wondering if anybody had another flavor of Big League Chew that you prefer besides the ground ball grape. This one is so good to me. I don't remember what other flavors I've had of this, but this one is so good. I'm gonna try some of this. It's so good. Like, it has that initial taste, and it's almost kind of sour or something. I love it. Okay. So, I was actually just like looking back through memories on my phone. I'm trying to think of a story time to do. And I came across pictures of when we got our dog. And it brought back all these memories. And so I was like, this would be a good video to share. This was like, I think we had been married 1 year. We had been married a year and 3 months. And for a while, at that point, for a while, I had been begging my husband for us to get a dog. And he was not interested. We were living in like a duplex apartment at the time. There was no fence there, no fenced-in yard or anything. It was like a 2-bedroom, small little duplex, all we needed. But he was like, what are we supposed to do? You know, we don't have room. Anyway, so leading up to this, just so you know, my sister, one of my sisters, had had a dog for a while, and she had a pit bull. It was such a good dog, so precious, so sweet. Just like never had any accidents, like was just like kind of like a anomaly. And she was in college at the time, but she was living like an off campus, like she was living off campus in a house. And she was able to have this dog. And it was a rescue dog. And so I really wanted to rescue a dog. So I went to visit her one weekend, and we went to the local shelter. And I think my husband at that weekend was on like a guy's trip. I think that's probably the reason that I left and went to visit her. Anyway, so we went to the shelter, and I wanted a dog so bad. And so I was just like blowing up his phone while he was on his guy's trip and sending him pictures of the dogs. And there was a pit bull at this shelter, which I have nothing against pit bulls. My sister has a pit bull who's great. But her pit bull is pretty small. I don't know if she was like the runt of the litter or what, but she's pretty small. The pit bull at the shelter that day was huge. And I loved him. Like, we took him out for a walk and played with him. He was so precious and so cuddly, but I mean, he was huge. And he had not been fixed. And they told us that at his last home, there was a female dog walking by. He was inside, and there was a female dog walking by outside, and he broke through a window and then he broke through an actual window to get into like a sunroom or something, and then broke through the screen to get out of the house to get to that female. And I was still begging my husband to get the dog. And I did feel like I needed to tell him that story because obviously the people at the shelter felt like they needed to tell us that story. And I will admit, years later now, at the time, I mean, that made me so nervous. Of course, like inside I was like, oh, yikes, like, do I really have it in me to like deal with that? Like, but I was like on the outside begging my husband. I was like, he is so sweet. You will love him. He's just so precious. And my husband was like, okay, we can talk about getting a dog. Like, we can actually have that conversation. Like, I'm open to it. We're not getting that dog. He was like, we're in a 2-bedroom apartment. Other people in our apartment complex have dogs. We have no fence. Like, think about this. But in the moment, I was like, buddy's so sweet. Plus, it was like the peer pressure that my sister had a pit bull. And I was like, oh, we'll both have pit bulls. Oh, my word. Now, looking back, I'm like, I was not prepared to deal with that. So, that's the lead up to getting our dog. We did not get that dog. But I continued to stay on my husband about this. And so did my sister, I'm sure. She was like talking to my husband constantly about how we needed a dog. Anyway, so finally, one day, I was teaching at the time. I found a shelter that was like 45 minutes away from our house. And it had been posting all the dogs they had up for adoption. And it would say like how long they'd had them and all this stuff. And I found this precious dog. I'm not like a small dog person. I'm more like a medium-sized dog person. Our dog probably weighs like 45 pounds. And so I wanted like a medium-sized dog. And so all day long while I was at school, anytime I had breaks, I was just like sending him pictures and like, being like, can we please go today? Can we please go today? So he finally agreed. We borrowed like this portable crate from a friend that you could just sit in your back seat. Just in case we were gonna get him. Which is so funny looking back on, because like now of course he just like gets in the back of our car. We used to be much more conscious of like where he was allowed to be. Anyway, we went to the shelter. And the first really good sign was that we walked into the area where they keep the dogs. And of course, all the dogs were going nuts. They were just barking so loud. It was so crazy. And we got to his little kennel and he was just sitting there so quiet. And I think he'd only been there like a day maybe, so he was probably super like nervous and scared. He had just gotten there. And I was like, okay, well, you know, this is a good sign in the sense of him not being like super crazy. And we asked the lady if he was potty trained. I think he was 2 years old. And she was like, yeah, I mean, he's not peed in his kennel at all. He only has peed when we've taken him outside. She was like, so I would say he's potty trained. And so they have this room where you can take them to play with them. And as soon as we took him in there, he went and peed all over the room. And we were like, And she said, I know what that looks like, but like all the dogs do that because this is the room. Like, this is the room that all the dogs come. This is the room where they all have peed in here, so they just like get really excited when they come into this room. So like as soon as he did that, I like was like, shoot, because I knew that my husband was gonna be like, we're not getting this dog. But we played with him in there for a few minutes, and then we took him outside and took him on a walk. And he was so sweet. And so all this time I'm like talking to my husband, like, she said, you know, all the dogs pee in that room, and doesn't he deserve a chance? Like, I was just like, please, he's so sweet. And so anyway, he finally agreed. He was like, okay, we'll try this. So he was already fixing everything, and we took him home that day. We stopped and got everything we needed. We got a dog bed. We got like an actual big kennel to keep in our apartment. Oh, we had to deal with so much from our landlord. Like, he like said we couldn't get a dog, and we were like, we should have put that in our contract because lots of people in this complex have dogs, and that's not really fair to us for you to not let us get a dog because all these people have dogs here. And so he didn't really have a leg to stand on, so that's an important part of the story. Because he's like, you can't get one. And we're like, we'll pay the pet deposit and we're getting one because there's nothing in our contract that says that we can't. It was really frustrating because he really like tried to fight us on it, and then like was like he couldn't actually do that because it was in our contract that we could pay a pet deposit and get a dog. So we paid the pet deposit. It's important to note that because of what we end up going through. So we get this dog, totally potty trained. It was amazing. I couldn't believe it. I mean, he would not go unless we took him outside. So all that's going well. We're keeping him in this big crate when we're gone to work for the day, which I know people do that all the time, and it's such a good idea and it's fine. I started feeling a little bit guilty about it because I was like, he's such a good dog. Like, shouldn't we let him have a little bit more space than this? Because I feel really bad that he is stuck in this crate all day. And so after about a week of him being in the crate, because he never peed anywhere, we decided to put him in the guest bedroom and let him like be on the bed and like be able to roam around the room. Okay. The first day we do this, we come home from work, everything's great. We're so happy. He's so happy. He did so good in there. He didn't tear anything up. He didn't pee anywhere. We're like, yes, okay, he's fine. He can roam free in this room. I think a few days went by. He did really well. But it was only a few. So I remember this very distinctly because it was a Friday. I had had a horrible day at work. I don't remember why. It was just one of those days and I was really frustrated. And I think my husband was already home from work when I was leaving school. And I like texted him and was just like, this has been the worst day. I just so glad it's the weekend. Like, And he just texted back like, it's about to get so much worse. And I was like, okay. And he said, he told me that the dog had torn up the carpet. And I immediately call him and I'm like, how bad is it? How bad is it? And he was like, it's bad. I was immediately in panic mode because of what had happened with our landlord. I get home and basically what had happened was, I don't know if there was a particular sound outside that got him stirred up and worked up, but he had like the door to the guest room. He had just ripped and dug and dug and dug at the carpet, and you could see the concrete. It was a huge space where he had torn the carpet completely off the foundation. And we were so like devastated because of having to deal with this with our landlord. And so we called him, and he was such a like jerk about it. He was like, I thought this wasn't gonna happen. I thought we agreed, you know, y'all were gonna do all this stuff, da da da. And my husband was like, yeah, this is a huge bummer. Like he told him the situation, and so basically the landlord was like, well, you're paying for it. Like, we're gonna have to redo the entire room and you're gonna pay for it. And my husband was like, no, like, I've read the contract. We put down a pet deposit for this reason. And that dude like went back and forth with us and was like so like ticked and like tried to threaten that we were gonna have to make this huge like payment. And like we just like read the contract front to back and we're like, no, like your contract says we have to put a pet deposit down and that will cover anything that happens. And so the dude eventually had to let it go because he didn't have a leg to stand on to tell us that we had to like pay all this stuff. I think we continued to live there for like 4 more months. 3 more months before we bought a house. And so we just kept it the way that it was. And he basically was like, whenever you guys move out, I'm just gonna cut a piece of carpet from the closet and put it there. So I guess it wasn't like that big of a deal. But at the time, I was just devastated because I was like, how did this happen? The rest of the time we lived there, we did keep him in his crate every time we left. Because we were like, we cannot deal with another mishap. But then, like that 3 months later or whatever, yeah, then we didn't make him do that at our new house. We had all hardwood floors. And he did great. And he still does great. The only thing he does sometimes is like if he gets left alone for a while, sometimes he tries to find a pillow to chew up. So we have to like, we try to like move our pillows off the couch whenever we're leaving. That's the only thing he has done. Like I feel like when he feels like nervous that somebody's not coming back. But he's a great dog. And sometimes I feel sad for him because like for years, like for like 4 years, we didn't have any kids with him. And so he was just like our whole life, and like he was like our kid. And then when we had our son, it was like, okay, he's so much more important. We still love him, of course, and he has such a good relationship with my son. My son loves him, but he just doesn't get all the attention that he used to because we have a kid now. But he's precious. He's a precious dog. So sweet. Such a sweet story of like rescuing him. I love doing that. Like if we ever have another dog again, hopefully we'll do a rescue dog because I just think that's the way to go. But and he's best friends with my sister's pit bull. They love each other. So that's sweet when we can get them together to play. They go crazy, but it's very sweet. Okay, that was my story time about my dog, how we got my dog. If any of you have any fur baby stories, share those. I love animals. I'm more of a dog person than a cat person. My husband mentioned like if we get another animal at some point, maybe we should do a cat. And I was like, he was like, they're so much easier. But I'm more of a dog person. I don't know about you guys, but anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you're doing well.